Hello, everyone. So you've just watched a video about the spread of Islam on the eastern coast of Africa. Now we're going to look at how Islam spread through the rest of northern Africa on these Muslim trade routes. So remember, as people are trading goods, they're not only trading goods, they're also trading ideas. So we're going to see how the Islamic religion spread through all of northern Africa. So some of this is going to be a review. This shows you really a lot of the Silk Road, which we studied last year. You can see it stretches all the way from China up through the Roman Empire. It also does dip down into northern Africa and the Middle East. If you remember, we did that activity last year where we did the trading activity in the hallway, and we went all the way from China, which had silk, all the way to Baghdad, which had glass. We had other stops along the way with spices and metalwork and paper and other things. So this is just kind of a review which shows the Silk Road and all the different places that it stopped. So through the 6th and 7th centuries, you can see the Islamic religion started in Arabia. But then as the caliphs expanded, so did the Islamic religion. It got up into most of the Middle East, starts working its way over towards Asia, starts spreading through northern Africa, and then also really up into Spain as the territories expanded. And you can see some military campaigns which also allow that Muslim idea to expand. Again, not just trading goods, but also ideas. And as that Muslim empire expanded, so do the trade routes and so do the riches. And here we can see them also spreading down into Africa, starting to spread up into Europe, and definitely spreading up and through Asia. This is just another route, another map of the route for the Silk Road. You can see some of the items exchanged on it: silk, glass, spices, ivory. So just a reminder of some of the ideas or some of the goods that were traded as well as the ideas. The Silk Road was really a long and arduous trading route, but as more sailing ships were developed, larger ships that could go longer distances, it really allowed for those trading routes to be shortened, and you could go farther and you could carry more goods with you as you were trading. Suddenly we can cross those distances a lot faster. You'll see we can cross the Indian Ocean, we can cross the Arabian Sea, we're also crossing the Bay of Bengal, we're getting down into Indonesia, we're finding ways to get to Madagascar and down the eastern coast of Africa. So suddenly we're able to we're able to trade much faster, we're able to trade a much larger area. So, and a lot of that is helped by the monsoons, because the monsoons are allowing those ships to go farther. Remember, the monsoons are big winds that are crossing the Indian Ocean, so they are allowing the traders to go farther and to go faster to trade their goods. Spices were something that were traded from Southeast Asia, between Southeast Asia and the Middle East. There were different spices being traded back and forth. In addition, new trade routes opened up between China and Indonesia. You can see some of those routes right here as they are able to traverse the different seas. This is a typical market that you would see today in the Middle East, but it's the same spices that would have been sold back in the markets anywhere from the 7th to the 15th century. They would have traded these same spices as well as the different ideas. In fact, two of the most common spices that you would have seen were cinnamon and cloves. So the cinnamon would have been from more Southeast Africa all the way across the Indian Ocean to Indonesia, whereas cloves would have had several stops along the way. It wouldn't have crossed the entire Indian Ocean at once. And just like our hallway activity last year, some of the other things that you would see that would have been traded would have been glassware, china, meaning like plates, not China the country. Things like that would have also been traded between the Middle East and Northern Africa. Over time, these Arab merchants really began to use a universal currency. So by universal currency, I mean one form of money that everybody used. It would not have been a money that you and I would use. It wasn't paper money. It wasn't coins. The first people to develop paper money were the Chinese, but they had not developed it yet. But they did have a universal form of currency. That form of currency was a shell called a cowrie shell. That shell is found on the Maldive Islands. That became the first global currency. The Maldive Islands are a very small chain of islands which are located just southwest of the southern tip of India, and they're really just west of Sri Lanka. So that's where those shells would be found, and that became the common form of money that everybody used. Over time, these Muslim traders also started crossing the Sahara Desert. They might have started in Cairo or Tunis, and they started going west and south. They came through the Sahara Desert, started coming down into some other trading centers that we will start looking at next week. They traded gold, they traded salt. Salt was a big resource that people needed. Not only does it make things taste good, but it also preserves meat and fish to make sure that it doesn't go bad. So you would definitely need that as you were crossing the desert so that your food stayed good. So Muslim traders brought those things across the desert. Of course, that's not the only thing they brought with them, because remember, not only do we trade goods, we also trade ideas. So as these caravans traveled the long distances across the desert and came to these new places in West Africa, they were also trying to convert the people that they met into the religion of Islam. And these West African cities that came out, these West African cities developed out of the old kingdoms of Ghana, Songhai, and Mali. And we'll learn about those cities next week as we continue our studies of the West African trading centers. Unfortunately, there was another profitable commodity that came out of the Arabic world, and those were slaves. So slaves were something else that started to be traded in sub-Saharan Africa. So remember, we talked about how not only do you trade goods, you also trade ideas. We started having this cultural exchange as people from different areas started meeting. And the exchange of trade and religion and ideas also brought forth new forms of art and architecture. This is the Jenny Mosque in Mali. Looks similar to the picture on the slide before. This is obviously a current day picture, but it still has some of those old time features to it. It's got the towers, it's got the things sticking out of the mosque, so it resembles some of those old time pictures that we see from the early trading days. And some of those design aspects are actually still seen in homes today, West African homes and other buildings, city buildings, some businesses. So this is a home today in Western Africa, and you can still see some of those design features. One of the people that we will talk about next week is Mansa Musa. He converted to Islam and he made his Hajj to Mecca. So one of the pillars of the Islamic religion that you're supposed to do sometime during your lifetime is to make a Hajj or a pilgrimage to Mecca, and Mansa Musa did do that, and we will study Mansa Musa next week. So in the 16th century, the European nations decided, maybe we should start trying to see what's down in Africa and in India, and actually they were surprised to see that the Muslim trade lanes were already fully there. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. You've already watched the video about Eastern African trade. You've already done your exit ticket. There is one written assignment that goes with this presentation. So now you're going to go and you're going to answer those questions, and then you're going to read the news ELA article that goes with this and take the quiz on that. Have a great weekend, and we will see you for our live class on Monday. Thanks so much.